Hello, welcome. We're going to listen to Tyler here. So he's got a video where he's like, yo, is it the retailer's fault or the publisher's fault for low sales, for stores going out of business? And there's really two pieces to this. There's one part of it is the microeconomics, the other part is the macroeconomics. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but just kind of hear like his intro as he's talking to Joe here, who used to own a comic book store.
So with the retailers, let me pull out my notes right here and let's turn the grill on. All right, we're putting the steak, which is Joe, on the grill. Okay. So one problem, I'm just going to say all the problems I had because I know you've had the discussions. One problem I had with some of the retail discussions was the fact that they were only focusing on the product. And I get it. Like you're selling specific type of product and it's not good quality, then it's like, yeah, the quality that I'm selling fucking sucks.
Way to swear on my Christian Minecraft server, Tyler. But you kind of see where he's going here. Oh, it scrolled down from where I wanted it. Okay, here we go. Right here. So this is an article on sketch.com, which I don't know anything about this website or who wrote this, but this is a person who says they've talked to several comic book store owners, right? Over the last couple of years, the transaction was 45. This year, why can't I click on that? What is that? Why? Okay. Well, that's weird. I just wanted to click on this to highlight the text, but sure, you do you. We're running in the $40 range. We take that drop and reduce the number of total transactions, you get down like this. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is we also have this thing called inflation. Inflation is massive. These 2023 dollars are worth less than 2022 dollars. This is more than merely a 17% drop for this store. Probably more like 25%, maybe even 30%. And also keep in mind, this also means fewer units sold because comic books have crept up in price. Like I'm reading Predator versus Wolverine, and that's like $6 a pop instead of the $4.99 that is traditional right now. Man, back in like 2018, DC was selling books for $2.99. That's the kind of inflation we've had. Now, what I thought was really interesting was here. This is the first time in recent memory that the majority of shops I talked to reported a drop off from the year before. Now, I could argue this isn't too unexpected. These are banner years. Going from a high point down to norm isn't as painful as the alternative, but going back to what they said, comes with higher costs and longer hours. Your margins aren't as pristine as stresses begin to mount. What's working? Quotes for these pieces dominate what isn't. While we all love yada yada yada, this year, what isn't working towers over what is working. Shops had to labor to come up with positives. While there are certainly winners in today's market, I don't know there will be big winners. Even the best sellers sell a fraction of what they sold in the past. There's little consistency in what works from shop to shop, which to some extent that makes sense, right? Like some stores are going to have like an audience that likes one thing, some are going to have an audience that likes another. The store owners are going to order different books based on that, which are going to drive sales. But isn't that weird? Isn't it weird that like you can't just go like Batman, Detective Comics is consistently great. How is it that Batman, Detective Comics is not consistent across stores? Like it's Batman is the number one selling comic book character in the world. It's a weird situation. Tyler's point is like, hey, stores, what are you doing to advertise? What are you doing to promote yourself? What are you doing to get out there? So that's like the micro, right? What is this individual store doing? But I think the problem is bigger than what is this individual store doing. You have to actually have articles like this on Games Radar, comic shops, what they are and what to expect and where to find one that fits you. You have to have an article to tell people how to shop for comic books. Imagine having to have an article on how to tell people how to go buy a novel. Imagine having to have an article on how to tell people how to go buy potato chips. Imagine having to have an article to tell people, anything like that. Any kind of like mass market good. It's ridiculous. The problem with comic books isn't just like bad books are part of it. Lack of advertising is part of it. But you know what else is part of it? The industry is structured in a really bizarre way. It sowed the seeds of its own destruction back in the 80s. And as those people have aged out, as those people who were super into it back then have gotten older, have moved on from the hobby, have died, they can't explain why the industry is so freaking bonkers. Why you can't buy a comic book in Walmart. Why can't you go to the drugstore and buy a comic book off of the periodical rack in the freaking drugstore, in the gas station, in the bookstore, in Walmart? Nobody can explain this to you because it's completely insane. The industry chose to become insular and isolated in the US and it's suffering for it. I had another article open here that said like manga made up like 5.7 billion out of the $7 billion comic market. I believe it. You know where you can find manga? In Walmart. You know where you can find manga? The drugstore. You know where you can find manga? The bookstore. Any kind of store you would think, yeah, they might have a book, has the freaking book in it. Comics, you got to go to this weird little store that's out of your way, know exactly what you want 2 months before you order it, or 2 months before it comes out, so you can order it then, because if you don't order it then, your shop's not going to order it for you, and you're not going to get the book. That's completely insane. The comic book industry has the perfect knowledge of what pre-orders look like for what they're doing, and they still screw up. It's amazing. The problem's way bigger than did this store do the right thing or is this one book any good? The problem is way bigger than that. Industry has been structured in a completely pathological way and it's suffering for it. Anyway, you all take care of yourselves. You have a great day, great night, and I hope to talk to you again. Bye bye.